Uh, Welcome to the podcast. It's episode 20. Not bad, eh? Episode 20. Not bad. Didn't know if we'd get past episode 5, but not bad. We're still here. I've got one co-host with me here today. The others are all well, I don't know where they are. They're all on a mission. But Wazzy saved me from the awkwardness of a solo podcast. Wazzy, Warren, welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Oh, that's okay.
Great, got you in here just in time. Gonna start off by talking a little bit about TnB. What happened on Friday? Well, both of us here belong to the same team, and we know how that went.
I had a mechanical failure.
Was that what it was? It was a mechanical failure.
Yes, the driver wasn't able to drive the truck.
That's not the mechanical failure. That's a driver issue. But So, and then the third team member, he was not available. He was 1,500 kilometers away from home. So we didn't have Muna with us, and both of us retired. So no points on round one for not Aston Martin Racing, but a few great performances there in round one. We've got I wasn't the only one to retire on lap one. Actually, I think we had 6 retirements in total, and 5 of them retired on lap 1.
I think I made it to lap 3 after Shuttles took my wing twice, and for the second pit stop, I got the pit entrance wrong, and we all know the Baku pit entrance.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one.
That's when mechanical failure came in, My wheel fell off.
Oh yeah.
And I don't know why. Because I didn't tap the barrier. I didn't tap it.
Oh, you just tapped it. So obviously it was a fantastic evening for Project TGA Yamaha. Yes, apparently there's a Yamaha. They collected 77 points. So
on fire. I was lucky enough to be in the same Polytech time just after the update where nobody knows how Polytech works.
Oh yes.
And then I was like, I want to coaching, but I was giving a little bit of advice and it seemed to work. So I'm happy for those. The one not lost not. Did well.
Yeah, well, no points for not Aston Martin Racing, and then what was that? 77 points for the Yamaha team. So already starting off on the back foot. Another stat that no one in this team would like to hear is we were the only team on the night not to score anything at all. So
okay. I would rather have a calamity in the first race than have a calamity at the second last or last race. So let's just focus and think that the worst of the season's over already. Because we all know Baku. Yeah.
we're gonna obviously in round 2 we're gonna head off to a circuit that's a little bit more friendly to me anyway. I didn't have my Baku was probably the shortest 100% race I have ever done. Or yeah, I what?
Yeah, well, you were
Warm up lap in.
quite well prepared.
Oh yes, I was
Shortcomings of
I was
some things or
I was very well prepared. To give you a little rundown of how well I was prepared. About while I was making the lobby, I remembered I needed to change my wheel setup because it was connected to the PC where I was doing laps of Kyalami. So yeah, very well prepared for that castle section. I definitely knew it was coming. On my warm up lap of qualifying, I crashed, and I went on to crash on lap 1, and then I had a very weird commentary stint from my rig. So yeah, it was a fun night, but obviously looking for better things from round 2. It's a track I should be quicker at, and it's also a track that's a little bit more forgiving. You're not gonna get a lot of you're not gonna get a second chance in Baku if you go off at one of those corners. Obviously, welcome to Rob. Thanks for joining. He's not gonna be here long because he's going to abandon us to go watch English football. Really? Might as well call him Boris. Might as well call this like Boris. I mean, really, English football. If he was leaving to go watch IPL, I'd be like, okay, but understandable. The man's a cricketer, but English football. Are you? No. If you're in America, you call that soccer. English people love it when you call it soccer. So obviously going into round 2, as we mentioned, that'll be Austria. It's a much quicker circuit. A lot less downforce. Well, depends on how you set up your car, but I don't use a lot of downforce around that track. I really like that track. So we'll see what happens next week. Friday, obviously, round 2, 8 o'clock, and we should have some semblance of normal commentary returning in the form of Johan, or at least.
I was alluding to, because you had a lot on your plate, and you still managed to commentate the race. Well done.
It was round 1, and it needed something. So it couldn't just be forgotten. It was round 1. It's not the way you want to start a season with a broken stream, and so.
Reminds me of the TnB broken days. Needed something, and then they had something. Just,
So Rob has already left. He's gone to go watch his amazing football match. Wow. But obviously you can listen to the rest of this podcast later. It's obviously goes out to its various platforms, but it'll be on YouTube later. He's given us a prediction, but I'm not going to read that now. I'll read it a bit later when we get to F1, when we get to the predictions. Speaking of F1, where are we going this weekend? For the first time since 1996, we'll have a Formula 1 race in Portugal. It's not going to be at the track we last saw. That was obviously Estoril, and now we'll be going to Portimão, which is obviously just it's a town west of the Algarve, which is a tourist destination, a growing tourist destination in Portugal, and they're going to be going there. That track was purpose built for F1 in 2008, and unfortunately the whole thing just sort of fell through, and Portugal ended up getting a magnificent circuit out of the whole ordeal, but they never got the Formula 1 that, I mean, Herman Tijk designed the circuit and everything. It was made for Formula 1, and it's good that eventually, even if it is 12 years later, they're gonna get their race. Can you can't realistically make any prediction. We know the Mercs are going to be quick, but beyond that, we know nothing about this circuit with a Formula 1 car. So
I don't either, and I think it's not so clear cut. Yeah, Merc has got the advantage, But I don't think the midfield will be more jumbled up. Let's say that for now.
This will be a little more like the Nürburgring, where qualifying was pretty close there in the midfield. In fact, it was amazingly close.
Crazy. Yeah.
Obviously, this will be the fourth circuit to host the Portuguese Grand Prix. First circuit was I think it was Boa Vista. That was in the 50s. They hosted 2 races, and then it moved from there to another circuit which I can't recall the name of, and they only hosted it once. And then they lost Formula 1 for a couple of years, and then when they came back to track that was built specifically for F1 at the time, Estoril. Estoril still holds that Grade 1 license, so technically they could have hosted this one. But I think everyone wanted to see Portimão on the calendar. I say put them both on the calendar. Why not?
Yeah.
Obviously, we've seen leaks of a calendar for next year, but really difficult on I think even the calendar that they officially release, because this is like a leaked one. So when they officially release, I don't even know if we can read 100% into that calendar, because that leaked calendar is all over the world. So if you think they're going to make all of those destinations next year without an issue, well, yeah, all of this would just have to go away overnight. I don't think they're going to pull off that. It's a 23 tracks. But I see a new addition there. It's not. So we'll actually, if that calendar is correct, we'll have 3 new circuits, because we never did Holland and Hanoi. We did it in TnB, but we haven't watched the F1 cars go around those circuits.
Yeah.
So obviously Saudi Arabia could be the newest circuit added to the calendar. It's disappointing not to see any of the tracks that we've done this year maintaining their position, like the Nürburgring or Portimão. But Portimão was very straightforward about it. They actually came out and said, look, this is a one-time thing, and F1 was like basically having a big discount and there's no way we can pay their normal fees, so this is a one-time thing. So let's all enjoy Portimão. We don't know if we're ever gonna see this race again. Just read Rob's prediction. Well, that's definitely a Rob prediction. If we're gonna go more realistic, then we'll just swap first and third. But Rob's prediction is Bottas, followed by Max, followed by Lewis. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. Here's a depressing fact for anyone watching, and for you as well, Wazzy. Do you know that the constructor's title could get clinched in Portugal? Yes.
How many races are left? It's 6 with this one, isn't it?
I think there's 17 races. This is round 12. Yeah. So 5 after this. So they could win the championship with 5 rounds remaining. It's been a team of dominance, and it's not really too much you can do. They've come to F1 and they've mastered the art, and many will hate them for it, because can say things like they make the sport boring, but really they're doing what any team would want to do. If a team was coming into F1, that would be what they wanted. Get your brand out there, and then just dominate your competition. And I mean, Merck went to Formula E. at the beginning of this year, yes, at the beginning of this crazy 2020 year, Merck was supposed to start a Formula E project, which they did, and they started off okay. They got a podium here and there in their debut season, but on the final race of the season, you know what Merck did, and it still haunts me. They got a 1-2 in Formula E in their first season. So it's coming, and
Professional's professional.
that's
They are close outfit. But I think, Jonah, if God permits a little bit of weather and nobody practicing that much, track time is little, get it with a new track. They're racing on since 1996. I don't think it's so clear cut this weekend. I don't think so. And when I say clear cut, Merck will probably win. But I don't think the one we're thinking of is going to win. And from Merck downwards, it's going to be a different result.
well the weather report for Sunday is, well, that's not a very helpful report, but anyway, 50% rain, and that is
It's like MotoGP race we had at France. Nobody did.
at
The
about-
whole
at about-
weather
at about-
report was for clear weather. 2 minutes before the race starts, pisses down. Oaks have to jump, wet race, wet tires. Here we go. You never know.
See what happens. We're not going to have any crazy cold temperatures as we had in the rest of Europe, so going to be around 22, 23 degrees it is Algarve. It doesn't really it's got more like almost like a Durban climate, but not as hot, a little cooler, but very much like a Durban climate. So actually a lot of tourists from the rest of Europe visit Portimão in the winter, because in the winter you can still go and sit on the beaches. So this is a holiday spot. It's Portugal's very own version of Monte Carlo, really. So we'll be heading there this weekend, and we'll see how that goes. Can't wait. Don't have much to tell you about it, because really we've never had an F1 race there. Don't know what to expect, but I think we can expect the Mercs to be quick all round, and then it's really gonna, I think Max will be there, and then that best of the rest, that midfield, I think that's pretty open between McLaren and Renault, and so before we move on to another subject, Mike's making a bit of a noise. Before we move on to another subject, have you heard of the 2020 silly season rebirth? We all thought the silly season was done. Ricciardo going over to McLaren, and Sainz going over to Ferrari, and Vettel going over to... We all thought it was done. It's not done. It's not done. And the worst news ever is George Russell could be without a seat in the very near future. Basically, Perez could be on his way to Williams. Latifi wouldn't be going anywhere, because a lot of the funding in that team comes via his dad. So Latifi would stay. Perez could potentially join Williams, and some crazy things coming out of Marco and Christian Horner's mouths, that if Albon isn't up for the seat, they will be willing to look outside the Red Bull Driver Academy if need be. And stories of Holcomb, Do you think if they give Nico a 1-year contract, he'd say no? He
Of
will.
course he would.
He will jump in that car so quickly. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. There's still a lot to happen in the silly season. It's not over yet apparently, and we could have some very talented drivers without a seat. Obviously at Haas, we got it was looking more and more like Callum Eilert was on his way to Haas, and now that's not looking quite right. It seems like another Formula 2 driver might be on his way to Haas. That's Mazepin, because his father is looking at buying the team. So this seems to be becoming a bit of a trend in Formula 1.
Yeah.
Seems to be becoming a bit of a trend where you've got your top teams, and then you've got dad bought me a team. So it's quite.
Well, to be fair, I've written also a letter as well, and I said I was a accomplished driver on PlayStation.
And Steiner and Steiner probably sent you a GIF.
Not yet, but I'm waiting for it.
Of Formula E, but
No.
obviously just looking at the F1 standings. Obviously, Hamilton leading by a ridiculous margin. It's 230 points from Bottas's 161. So unless something crazy happens and there's 2 or 3 races that Lewis just doesn't finish, gets involved in lap 1 shenanigans, and Bottas just wins them every time. Like Hamilton drops the ball, Bottas picks it up and gets a full 25 points, maybe. But I really think if Lewis wins this weekend, you can pretty much call it. Might still have some mathematical way of doing it, but you can pretty much call it.
You could have called it last weekend when Bottas pulled over in the pits and Nürburgring. It's done and dusted.
Looking at the championship, Sebastian Vettel has 7 points more than Nico Hülkenberg. Let that sink in. Sebastian Vettel has 17 points, Nico Hülkenberg has 10. Nico Hülkenberg has started 2 races. He's been at 3, he started 2 of them. Remember the first one, the car broke.
Yeah.
So you got no points there. So yeah. And that last performance, I think that was from what, last to 8th or something. You got driver of the day. So yeah, he's got 10 points. He's only competed in 2 races. He's got more points than Giovinazzi, Kimi Raikkonen, Roman Grosjean, Kevin Magnussen, Nicholas Latifi, and George Russell. So not a bad performance for someone who only showed up twice. It's not too bad.
And who knows, maybe he'll show up a 3rd time sometime.
Then if you look at obviously the top of the championship is pretty decided. Lewis, Bottas, Verstappen. Verstappen could still potentially take 2nd place if Bottas doesn't finish the season off very well. But if you look at that midfield, it's insane. 4th place, Daniel Ricciardo on 78 points. Gasly's on 53 in 10th. So 24 points covering 6 drivers. Actually, you can call it 26 covering.
Look, if I was a gambling man and I was halfway interested into Formula 1 like Red Bull, money-wise, this is the perfect season. Just think, okay, well, maybe Albon was not doing that well. Gasly had a run, not doing well. You've got Super Sub Hulkenberg doing 2 races and doing well.
Finishing in the points both times.
Not before that last race, chuck that oak in your car. Just chuck him in there and say, Putty, you got an opportunity. This is your little
swan song. This is your This is your final go at it. He has a 1-year contract that could potentially.
This is it. Like a cherry standing in the corner and she shows you a leg. That's his. Show your leg, but let's see what you got.
And then
I would have. If I was Marco. And Marco is another individual. He'll probably do something like that before the year ends.
I think. Look, I think if Albon got dropped before the season actually ended, I think then you'll just destroy whatever's left of that driver. So yeah, I think keep him there till the end of the season. You know, give him a season. Gasly didn't get a full season. Kvyat didn't get a full season. Give the guy a season. See where he lands up. If he's able to finish 4th in the constructors, is it really right to fire him? I don't think so. You know what I mean? What was he gonna do? Like, you know, if he finishes 4th in the championship, what was he supposed to do? Was he supposed to beat Max? Was he supposed to beat the Mercs?
No,
he got 4th.
He got closer to Max.
Yeah, he was supposed to be closer to Max. That's
the amount of time he had. He started in Red Bull at the end of last year. This is the end of this year. So he's okay, granted this year hasn't gone the way it should. But he had time. And he's consistently, averagely half a second off his teammate. I mean,
see, Max is on 140. Max on 147 points, and then Albon on 64. So not even half. And then if you look at the if you look at the team championships, obviously Merck can clinch it this week, and they got 391 points. Red Bull on 211. But really, if you had to ask yourself, okay, what did Max have? 147. Let's say he had 150, and Albon was able to match it. That's 300 points versus 391. All of a sudden, you know what I mean? Things look a hell of a lot better in the constructors, but Red Bull just don't have that second car.
Like in a broken East End way, tell you what happened.
Oh, and by the way, Ferrari's 6th in the championship.
They had 2 strong drivers, 2 number ones in the team. Max, Danny Rick. Danny said, bye-bye, he left. They scrambled, they got Gasly. Gasly didn't cut it. Cut him halfway through the season, bring Albon, come in, looks promising, but he's also falling short, let's be honest. Everybody can see it. Now they're sitting with their dilemma. Wow, what do we do? They've got drivers everywhere, but they don't have quality drivers. They don't have a luxury like Ferrari digging into a Charles Leclerc that's been at Alpha for 2 years and chuck him in a car and he wins the race at Monza.
Look, I maintain Red Bull has produced. Red Bull. Okay, look, Red Bull. Let's just say. No, but wait, was it? Right now, I'm saying right now. In 2020, you're correct. Okay. There's right now in 2020, you're correct. If like Red Bull, they've got tons of drivers. They got drivers in Formula 3, in Formula 2, in Formula 4 Italy, Formula 4 Germany. They've got drivers in Super Formula in Japan. They've got drivers in Formula 4 in the USA. So they've got drivers everywhere. But looking at those drivers, none of them... Are you going to throw them in an AlphaTauri seat? Okay, fine. Why are you going to throw them in an AlphaTauri seat? What's the point? The point of throwing someone in an AlphaTauri seat is that they're going to get promoted to Red Bull eventually and fight for championships. And if you're looking at a guy and you're like, this guy's not going to win championship, this guy's not even going to beat Max. And now they need to look out the
years at AlphaTauri before
Toro Rosso.
The Toro Rosso,
Yeah.
as it was known. It's like putting two pieces of meat next to each other. The
Look,
one you spice like you like it,
Red
and the
Bull,
other one's got nothing.
Red
You
Bull,
can put it in the oven raw, and it's always going to be a little bit more stale than the other one.
Red Bull
They
went.
need time. They need time.
Red Bull went through a phase of having a lot of talent and nowhere really to put it. And that talent, it didn't fall away. The guys are still talented. They went elsewhere. They went to the likes of endurance. They went to the likes of Formula E. All you need to do is when there's no Formula 1 or MotoGP and you're desperate for motorsport and you start looking for these other formulas and you find a stream of something, you're going to spot a Red Bull driver somewhere.
Yeah.
I call them the Red Bull reject class. And there's tons of them. And they're talented guys. I mean, you've got the likes of World Endurance Champion Brendan Hartley. He's a failed Red Bull driver.
Which shouldn't have been dropped in my
He got
opinion.
he got 1 year in a year where that was definitely not the best Toro Rosso ever built. That was a rubbish car. And he got 1 season and he was dropped. I mean, this is a guy he's obviously a good driver. He's an endurance driver. He's good at what he does. But let the guy come to this formula and adapt to it. Obviously, it's something very different. So one race.
He's not a max. He comes into Formula 1, 16 years old. You give him 2 years and stuck him in the Red Bull and he's fucking champion. You know?
Yeah, no.
He's class. A guy like that, and they did too many. I mean,
there was Sebastian Buemi.
Sebastian Buemi. There was Al Jaswari.
There's ones that didn't even see Formula. There's ones that
bring them up too quickly, and they don't give them seat time.
There's ones that didn't even see Formula 1 that were part of the Red Bull Academy. I mean, Formula E champion. He just tested a Formula E champion. Just tested an IndyCar last week. Antonio Felix da Costa. He was a Red Bull driver. Was a Red Bull driver that never made it to Toro Rosso.
In 2012, down at Durban at the Top Gear Fest, nailing the 2008 Red Bull. Oh, it was champion. And I got a guy to say to the horse, look, I was drunk, he can't speak Afrikaans, but he did it. Oh, champion.
It's obviously going over from F1. Obviously, MotoGP last week, Aragon. But let's start with Moto3. We don't talk too much Moto2 on this podcast because there isn't anyone we specifically support, but we can't ignore Moto3 when Darren finishes his races.
When box office Binder stays on 2 wheels, but he's at the front somewhere. He's at least top 5.
So
if he can carry on his progression like he's done this year, he's gonna challenge his brother not too long into the future.
How is this
for
a turning point? I mean, Darren Binder, I'd say the worst part of his career was when Brad went to Moto2. Darren got a seat, or a ride rather, at Red Bull KTM, and everyone expected him to follow in his brother's footsteps. That was his brother's championship winning bike, championship winning team. Obviously, it's gonna go well. It didn't go well. He got 1 podium the whole season. It was a complete disaster, and that was his only podium at the time in Moto3. He got dropped. Racing for a satellite team, this CIP Green Power KTM team. They're based in France. And how's that? He beat both Red Bull KTMs this weekend.
I don't even know who this Oaks teammate is. I've never seen him. That's how well he's doing.
Yeah, his teammate fell. I think his teammate 70 something. I think there's a 73, something like that. I've hardly seen his teammate though. It's not like his teammate's not up front with him.
Top 25 sometimes.
His teammate's not up.
I don't know what his name is.
Yeah, no, his teammate's not up front with him. So no. So can actually. So Darren Binder finished second. It was actually a bit of a controversial finish because Umoa Masia, he actually cut the circuit. And
the final lap,
yeah, that was a bit touch and go because it was only a tenth in between the two, and did he gain advantage? Didn't he? And even if he didn't, even if he didn't, is
going behind the Zouk into turn 4, I think. It's a little slight before long, it's quite a high speed corner. He was gaming. He could have cut to the inside, but he left it on the outside and he went on the green pipe. He could have gone to the inside so easily.
I think whatever the rules are, okay, I think everyone will be a lot more happy if you say that is the rule and that's always the rule. So you know what? Don't get on the green stuff.
Exactly.
Don't get on the green stuff. And it needs to.
On the green point, it's a penalty.
You know, like when
you've got a run on the open front, you're in the slip. You've got a chosen direction where to go to. There was nobody behind him. He could have gotten on the inside, outbraked him, and taken the corner, but he didn't want to.
But
so he went on the green. I mean,
I think that's where.
For me,
I think that's where you've really got to state the rule, and regardless of the corner, regardless of the circuit, it's the same rule. I mean, we've seen it in Formula One, where they'll go to Austria and they'll police that final corner. They'll police that final corner so badly. Anyone that runs slightly wide, track gets deleted or lap time gets deleted, and then there's other parts of the track where they're clearly cutting a curb, and it's just fine. So you know what, if it's gonna say that, like, okay, you can ride on the curbs, but okay, in a motorbike obviously it's gonna be different. But in a Formula One car, if you say all 4 tires go past the white line, or that's an immediate penalty. Regardless of the corner, you've got to have 2 tires on the curb at least, or 2 tires on the right side of the line.
That's where MotoGP is a little confused, like F1 was a couple of years ago when they penalized Vettel in Canada. Nobody was really happy because it's not the actual ruling. They'll state the ruling and they have a riders briefing or drivers briefing or whatever, but they're not consistent. They'll be like, okay, this incident, that one's okay, but the next one is not okay. So, I don't know, it's touch and go.
They just need, I think they just need a little bit more consistency, and obviously, if that's the rule, you go over the green stuff, it's a penalty, then that should apply in every corner of every circuit, unless there's clear evidence that the guy was forced off the circuit.
Yeah.
Because like if that's gonna be a thing, like
they've got 3 formulas, Moto 3, 2, and 1.
Make it the same.
GP. It must be standard across the board.
It must be the same. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I agree. And I think it's even better for the riders that these things don't have slightly different rules. For the Moto3 rider coming up, it's less to adapt to. Make it simple, make it one rule for everybody, and having a look at the championship in Moto3, Albert Arenas looks like he's a leader at the moment, 144 points. He's on his way to, I believe it's Petronas in Moto 2. So he won't be in Moto 3 much longer. Darren Binder is actually 9th in the championship. I don't know how he got there. He's got 82 points. The leader's got 144. So what's that? 60 points?
Yeah.
5 races to go.
It's not impossible.
Moto 3 is a crazy thing, eh? And all you need is 25 points when a bunch of your... So long as he beats John McPhee. That's his teammate next year, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a South African and a Scotsman, so you can just imagine brandy and whiskey on opposite sides of the garage. It's going to be a great combination.
That guy also like wanted to do right and didn't work out. They shifted things around and John McPhee, Moto 3, he's not happy.
John McPhee was hoping to go to Moto 2, and that didn't quite work out for him. But he's going to stay in Moto 3. He's going to be Darren Binder's teammate next year, so it should be an interesting one. And then obviously in Moto 2, it's probably the one I pay least attention to, but got a victory for a Brit.
Yeah.
That is Sam Lowes, and the guy's on form. He won the last race too. I think he's leading the Moto 2 championship. Let me just...
Better than the other Lowe's brother, twin brother that does SPK.
Yeah, he's doing a better job than his brother. His brother obviously in SPK on a very strong bike, and Sam Lowes second in the championship.
Step brother of Rossi.
Coming undone in the second half of the season.
Leading the championship.
Was leading the championship.
And it was a silly mistake.
And
now you'll be the first one to admit that.
Now that means with that Luca Marini fall, it means that championship is divided by the top 3 by 5 points. So Estia Bastianini 155 points, Sam Lowes 153, and Luca Marini 150. So Moto 2 also just a few rounds to go, and that's nowhere near decided. But now we go to the real crazy. I mean, I've got one stat I just need to share, okay, because this is insane to me. Okay, the leader of the championship has never, I'm not talking about 2020, I'm talking about never. The leader of the championship currently has never won a MotoGP race. Yeah, that's insane. So just bringing up the points here on my screen, Joan Mir leads the MotoGP championship for Suzuki, 121 points. Never won a MotoGP race. Highest position of second, I think. Quartararo in second, 115 points. He had a shocker. He had an absolute shocker. I don't know what happened. I saw him hobbling a bit. He had a few falls in practice, a few rough falls, and he was hobbling a little bit. And I wonder if that just came down to, like the commentators were saying, sometimes the pain can just overtake the concentration, and he was just dropping back. It almost looked like there was something wrong with the bike. Like, yeah.
I think you wouldn't have taken pole if there was a physical deficiency.
Well, something then was not
Tires set up,
something was very wrong with the race setup of the bike, because he just dropped back. I mean, the other Yamaha that started up front, Vinales, he also dropped back, but not at that sort of rate. You know,
he has had a couple of races where he dropped back so badly, and they blamed the full fuel load and this and that. Set up wrong. Quartararo got his set up wrong. That's it.
Dovizioso had a shocking race and managed to close the gap.
Yeah.
In the championship. So yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he's never won a race. We've had 8 race winners in 10 rounds. 15 different men have stood on the podium. So 1/3 of the grid have won a race. 2/3 of the grid have stood on the podium. And the leader of the championship has never won a race. That's the current state of MotoGP, and you know what? I love it.
First round of Aragon. No, look, this MotoGP season is next level. You cannot predict. You do not know who's gonna have the advantage. And then I believe last weekend was also the first time since 1998 or 99 or somewhere in the 90s where there was no current or former world champion on the grid. Obviously with Marquez out since the first round, Rossi having COVID, there's no former or current world champion.
Yeah, basically because those two cover the championships for quite, and obviously Lorenzo's not there. Lorenzo was a champion, so no world champion on the grid, and the guy leading the championship hasn't won a race. I keep on saying it, but it's because it's incredible. It makes no sense. Maybe after 2 or 3 rounds, you might get a situation like that, but after 10 rounds, he's never won a race. He's leading, and I mean at the beginning of the season when Marquez fell, and that happened, and it became clear that Marquez wasn't going to be coming back anytime soon. Everybody called it. This is Quartararo's year, and well,
anything but.
It has not been the case. I mean, interesting fact as well. Beginning of the season, Brad Binder, what a start to the season. Obviously won his 3rd ever MotoGP race. Alex Marquez, he hasn't had the best start to the season, but 2 races ago, great performance, finished 3rd. Could have called it maybe something with the weather, it was a bit of a funny race. Maybe he's just really good in the rain and he got up on the podium, but then last week came and what a performance. What a performance by Alex Marquez. That was Marc Marquez tweeted after the race, "Hi, I'm Marc Marquez. I'm the brother of Alex Marquez." Nice to meet everybody. That was his tweet in Spanish. So Alex Marquez doing a fantastic job, and an interesting fact is that he's actually on equal points with Brad Binder. So the 2 rookies that came through together after 10 rounds, they've got exactly the same amount of points. Yeah. So I think Brad's had 1 or 2 falls more, and Marquez was probably finishing in that top 15, still collecting points in 1 or 2 of those retirements that Brad had. He obviously got 25 points in the one, but he got that win. But he's had a few falls, and it's allowed Alex to come back at him. Obviously, Alex was the top Honda on the day. Carl Crutchlow was 8th. That's the second Honda. And yeah, Stefan. Look,
it's only like 2nd race back.
Remember when Marquez fell and they brought in Stefan Bradl, and the Hondas were right at the back. I mean, there's actually 3 races this season they started last and second last. Like Repsol Honda finished last and second last 3 times. And if you look at Stefan Bradl, you don't really see that Honda improvement. He finished 7th. He had a terrible race. No, he finished 17th. Sorry, he had a terrible race. And Alex Marquez started 11th, passed them 1 by 1, and I think if he had another lap or 2, you would have got him.
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, Stefan Bradl's no slouch. He's been around the block for a long time, and he can't even master that Honda.
So
cannot. There's like a day-night difference. That's almost horrible to watch.
it seems like Alex has figured something out on that bike, and it's pretty good because obviously now next season, much like we see in Formula One, there's a bit of a freeze on technology. So the bikes next year are going to be pretty much evolutions of what we're seeing on track right now. It's not going to be entirely new bikes or anything like that. Not for 2021. So that means going into next season, even though Alex Marquez is leaving Repsol Honda for LCR Honda, he is going to get Carl Crutchlow's seat. And what's important about that is Nakagami has a 2019 Honda. Carl Crutchlow has the same Honda that the Repsols have. It's a 2020 Honda. So Alex Marquez will get the factory spec Honda, and if he's coming to terms with this bike so well, then he's basically just going to get an evolution of this bike next year. So he could have a really strong season at LCR, and he'll be running the team basically. So
it's how or when or
maybe
it's how nature separates the men from the boys.
Another
I
crazy
mean,
crazy
if
stat.
he can do this now, there's no reason why I can't do it next season. And then that's why Cal's been around so long.
Yeah.
I can remember Cal riding Honda, Yamaha.
Even Dovizioso goes all the way back.
Honda,
He goes all the way back to Repsol Honda. And I can't picture him on one of those now. It just doesn't seem right in my head. But
talking about him going to Prabia, I mean,
you know, if you have to sit and try and list the champions that have been through a Repsol Honda at some stage in their career, Rossi, Hayden, Stoner, everyone's been there at some stage.
Yeah.
So don't really remember Dovizioso's time there. I wonder if that was around. I don't know if it was early 2000s or maybe I just wasn't around.
2003 he was there. I think it was 2003 and 4.
I really don't remember him at Honda at all. I don't even remember him in the smaller formulas. I think that time I was Rossi madness.
Mad.
And I just watched this whole thing for Rossi. But it's been a look. 2020 has definitely shook up F1 to an extent. It's given us a very interesting calendar. It's given us some interesting results in the midfield. It's given us Pierre Gasly victory. 2020 has been awesome in terms of Formula One, but in terms of MotoGP, you can't describe this. This season is. There's a few races to go, and you've got no idea who the champion is going to be. Not between 2 bikes or 3 bikes or 4 bikes. You have no idea. 5 or 6 guys could still win this title, and it's crazy.
I must say, in terms of excitement, and you work the whole week to get home and look forward to your weekend. And MotoGP, more often than that, has given me that excitement, and for a reason. It's just brilliant at the moment. So, like Formula One, we'll always watch it, but MotoGP at the moment.
Formula One
Top
is
class, Formula racing. If it's 2 wheels, 4 wheels, doesn't matter.
Formula One will always be my favorite at heart. Okay, because it's the first racing cars I ever saw were Formula One cars. Okay, that's the first form of racing my dad actually got me to sit down and watch. And when my dad was he was an engineer he was involved in South African motorsport for quite some time, and things like Formula GTI and Formula V, and Even South African touring cars with the Nissan Sentra to an extent. So he started taking me to the races, and when I saw this Formula GTI, yeah, the single seaters just became my thing. I mean, my dad's team was a Formula GTI. It looked like a little Formula One car. You know, it had the front wing, it had the rear wing. It looked like a little Formula One car, and I just fell in love with these things. And open seater, single seating racing has always been my favorite. I prefer it than endurance or touring cars or GT3, or I like racing, but single seater is my favorite. But just lately, in the past 3 or 4 years, I would be lying if I didn't say MotoGP has surpassed F1 in entertainment value by a long shot. So, I mean, everyone blames Merck, but if you think back, really, what was happening before the Merck era? Oh, it was the Vettel era, and everyone hated Vettel. Do you forget now? But people hated Sebastian Vettel. They hated it. They were like, this guy's a 4-time world champion because he's got the very best car. Doesn't it sound familiar? You know.
If you think back at those days, we were saying that. Do you think they would say Vettel, a DHL signboard killer, or spinning champion, or
Look, besides,
things change.
Okay, there was a season or two where Red Bull really just killed it, but in those 4 years that Sebastian Vettel won it, it wasn't that easy. As
No, you,
like
you
Hamilton
Mark
seems to
Webber,
like
we all
like
know Mark Webber is an accomplished driver.
like
So.
like I don't know, like Hamilton seems to be walking to the title, and Vettel had it difficult. I mean, there was a championship he won in Abu Dhabi that could have gone 4 ways.
Yeah.
We forget that, but in recent history, I suppose you can call it.
Ferrari was still challenging a little bit.
Yeah, Alonso was challenging for that. I think Webber could have still mathematically done it. Sebastian Vettel, and there was a fourth driver, wasn't it? Kimi. I think Kimi.
Kimi was very mathematically.
I think
really
Kimi.
in it.
Yeah, not really, but there was a mathematical chance that a Lotus could have won the championship, which would have been insane. It would have been like, how did Maldonado win that race? You'd look back and you'd be like, Lotus
He
won
didn't crash.
a championship. It's like, how did this occur? But
Yeah.
it's been an interesting season in MotoGP and in Formula One. 2020's been a destructive year for all of us and our finances and our stress levels, but it's given us some very interesting racing. It's given me my first official race weekend without Rossi.
Yeah.
I think.
And how long? No.
Unless he was badly injured and I don't remember and he missed races, but I really can't remember the last time Rossi. I started watching, my first MotoGP race was Rossi's first 500cc race. That was the first time I watched MotoGP, was Rossi's first 500cc race. My dad sat me down and said, you have to watch this, Lighty. He won 125s, he won 250s, watch this sake. And I watched him and he fell a couple of times in season one. He fell here and there. And when he got that first one, they just started coming.
Yeah.
And he won his first championship on a satellite bike. He had that yellow, was sponsored by Italian beer, Nastro Azzurro. Yeah, that yellow Honda. And he beat the Repsol Hondas to the championship, which is why he got signed to Repsol Honda in the first place. But it's like if Alex Marquez were to beat the Repsol Hondas to a championship. That's the equivalent of it now. Yeah, that's the equivalent of it now, because I think he did it in his second or third season. He won his first championship. So imagine Marquez in the next year or two beats Repsol Honda with an LCR. That's what it's equivalent to. So I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying how far-fetched that is. Rossi pulled it off.
So much better if his brother's on a factory bike and he's on an LCR.
Oh yeah, I know. The commentators mentioned it briefly in the race, and this is something I heard a long time ago. And I've told people this because I saw it in an interview. And whenever I repeat this, people laugh at me and they say, either I'm talking crap or Mark was talking crap. Okay? But there was an interview with Marc Marquez years ago. Alex Marquez was still in Moto 3. It was his second year in Moto 3. And they asked Marc Marquez, is there a rider he truly fears? And he said it's his brother. So after a couple of chuckles, they asked him, why your brother? And he says, well, because he's quicker than me. So, is this Alex Marquez adapting to a MotoGP bike? If this is the start of it, it's scary stuff, because he's late on the brakes. He doesn't look as nervous as his brother. Like, I don't know, the back of the bike doesn't move as much. He looks a lot more stable, if you ask me. He's not a all or nothing rider. It could be interesting, and
we can revisit this conversation in 2 years' time.
I think so. And initially, I was really disappointed that he got dropped by Repsol, but I think it's a blessing in disguise. I think if he's got the speed on the LCR, he can race Mark. But if they were as quick as each other on the Repsols, Repsol would have stepped in and said, "Hey, calm down, guys." So because they're they would have calmed them down. So with them being in opposition teams, maybe they'll be allowed to race each other, and who would know Mark's riding style better?
His father.
Yeah, probably. But his father was very excited there in the pit garage. The poor guy almost had a heart attack.
Up and down and left and right and bike, chewing nails. He didn't know what to do.
No, it's it's been a crazy one. I want to we've just passed the hour mark, so I don't wanna go too far. So let's start wrapping it up. What do we have to look forward to this weekend? Obviously, Formula 1 Portuguese Grand Prix, first time since 1996. Got a second round in Aragon. Does that mean the rookies are going to come back even better now that they're getting a second go? You know, a lot of guys that's obviously their first time around Aragon on a MotoGP bike, going back there the second weekend with all that data. Maybe we'll see guys like Binder Oliveira up the grid. Can Marquez go one step further, get his first race win? He'll be the 9th winner of the season, which is just what? In a field of 20, half your field have won in the same season. And the guy leading hasn't won. Sounds like a joke.
But he's close. He's close. John Muir is close.
So it's gonna.
The thing I liked about last weekend, just quickly, is everybody was like, "Oh, John Muir, V6 on the grid with the tire wear of the Suzuki. He's gonna take it. He's gonna take it." I completely forgot about Alex Rins. A few positions back, and Rins just showed, boys, I'm number one in this team.
Yeah,
and according to me, he still is.
Alex Rins, obviously, he just didn't have a fantastic start to the season, but they actually asked Quartararo, Fabio Quartararo, they asked him what he would say is the best all-round bike in MotoGP right now, and he replied with Suzuki. Yeah. So I think it's a strong team, and I think that's why Mo is leading the championship, and I think Rins has just tripped over himself too many times. Otherwise, he would probably be leading his teammate. And
And it's high grip track. The Suzuki, if there's high tire wear, you know the Suzuki is going to be strong. If it's low grip, very cold, like Le Mans a week back,
Suzuki,
they're not there.
Suzuki, for some reason, when the tires are really being pushed, the Suzukis can go that few laps extra. That they just when
the last 3 laps of any race,
yeah.
they've got the capability of going
What helped Alex so much there on the Honda was all of those bikes around him, they were on soft tires, soft front, soft back, and he was actually on soft rear, but medium front. So I think
Quartararo went with the same strap. Morbidelli was on the soft. Quartararo was on the medium front, and he was even worse. He had no feeling in the front.
Did you see actually Alex Rins actually ran out of fuel on the victory lap?
When he was like, the bike just, there's nothing.
If Alex Rins had ran out of fuel like a few corners earlier, that would have been really embarrassing. Did you see he ran out of fuel on the he actually got towed around the track by a scooter.
Yeah.
And then the scooter ran out of fuel. Did you see that? As they were going into the pits, it ran out of fuel. It went to the side and like fell.
No, I saw like a whole lot of marshals. There was like a stack of like 6 or 7 on the oaks pushing the guy, and you're waiting for him to drop his bum to stop the bike, but he doesn't do it because there's no fuel. He's just like, waving to everybody, and these guys are pushing him.
That's actually another difference between MotoGP and Formula One. If that happens in Formula One, you can get disqualified.
Oh yeah.
So
get a fuel sample out of your vehicle.
they need to have a fuel sample. They need to be able to extract enough fuel out of your car for what they deem a fuel sample.
And it's a prescribed amount as well. So it's not like 200 mils or
Dan, actually, before we go, what was his favorite driver? He calls him the prodigy. Dan Ticktum. He he actually got disqualified from a Formula 2 race not so long ago because he won the race and on the victory lap he pulled into the gravel and he were like, okay, got on a scooter and went back, and it turns out he wasn't going to have enough fuel to get to the pits. So he's like, I'm going to park it here while it still has enough. It wasn't enough for the sample. So he got disqualified. There was fuel there, but it wasn't enough for the sample. It was ridiculously... It was a very small amount off, but...
he's a quality driver, that guy. It's like, a few races before that even, he was sideswiping people and complaining over the radio, like, what's this happening? But it's obviously killing the wrong, that.
Yeah, apparently he was coached by the best. He was coached by Kimi. Not for his driving, for his radio.
I said when the men get separated by the boys get separated by the tosses, which, I won't, I don't know how many platforms we're on right now and how many people's listening to me, but Danny Dictum is in the lower bracket.
Let's leave it at that. Before Ozzy starts getting too emotional about Dan Ticktum and we can no longer control the words used in this stream, we're gonna cut this one off. I want to say thank you to Ozzy for joining. Thank you to everyone who watches this later. This actually doesn't get a lot of attention on Twitch, and this is where we do it live. It actually gets a lot more run on YouTube. YouTube's the most popular, but it is going to be available on Spotify as well as Google Podcasts. So Thank you to everyone who joined us for episode 20. We'll be back next week, and hopefully we'll have a big panel. Wazzy, you're welcome to come back. Come back, and I think we need to get not Sebastian and not Fernando, not Kimi, and all yeah. Hopefully we won't be discussing another 0 point round, because that will be shocking. That could lead to my retirement into commentary until PS5. So if I retire from Austria, I'm going to be severely.
I'll take a third of the blame or the punishment. I'll take a third of that.
Thanks everyone, and see you next week. And obviously, join us on Friday. TnB YouTube channel. Johan should be back for comms, but don't take my word for that. Cheers.
Cheers.